you have quorum.
Great. Thanks, Council. I'll now call this public hearing of Tuesday, July 21st to order. Councils, for the purposes of confirming we have quorum, please ensure your video is turned on. This meeting is convened by electronic means under the Ministerial Order M192, and we're all participating by phone. If my connection is lost during any portion of this meeting, we'll recess the meeting until my connection is restored, and the same goes for you, because we're all responsible for receiving and hearing all the information presented. If you lose connection during a vote, we'll suspend the voting process. Please let the clerks know if you're leaving the meeting for any reason so we can maintain quorum. And we're going to be on audio only because we're participating by phone. Members can listen to the proceedings via the live stream and YouTube link, which is tweeted out at Van City Clerk on Twitter. Presentations, amendments, and vote results will be projected to viewers when available. Lastly, we have speakers who will be providing comments to Council by phone, and a moderator will assist in patching the speakers through when their turn comes up. Can we have the roll call, please, Clerk?
Yes, Mayor Stewart in the chair. Councillor Carr.
Here.
Councillor DeGenova is on leave of absence for personal reasons. Councillor Fry.
Here.
Councillor Swanson.
Here.
Councillor Hardwick.
Present.
Councillor Wiebe.
Present.
Councillor Boyle.
Present.
Councillor Dominato. Councillor Dominato. Councillor Bly.
Hi there.
Councillor Kirby-Yung. Councillor Kirby-Yung. The meeting has quorum. Mayor Stewart.
Thanks very much. First, of course, we want to acknowledge we're on the unceded traditional territories of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh, and thank them for their generosity to all who live on these lands. I want to thank the staff who are doing a tremendous job, especially during COVID-19. Really, thank you very much for your incredible contributions. Just so we know, for this meeting, speakers have 5 minutes to make their comments and should limit their comments to the merits of the report being considered. They should also state whether they're support or opposed to the recommendations and if they are a resident of Vancouver. It's not, it's not mandatory to answer this question, and we'll have 5 minutes regardless. Speakers may only speak once and should follow along on Twitter at Van City Clerk for updates on the progress of the meeting so they don't miss their turn to speak. Any comments on agenda items can be submitted in writing to publichearing@vancouver.ca. Speakers who pre-registered with presentations, so you can't just show up with a presentation, you need to let clerks know ahead of time, are reminded that the public live feed has a slight 20-second delay. To navigate through the slides of your presentation, please say next. Our role here is to be a quasi-judicial body, which means Council is only to consider the merits of the rezoning application or heritage designation. Council members may ask clarifying questions from speakers, including the applicant, or technical advice from staff, but should save debate for after close of speakers. After hearing from speakers, Council may 1. Approve the principle improve in principle the application, 2. Refuse the application, or 3. Defer the application for further consideration. The first consideration is the CD1 text amendment on Howe Street, and so the clerk will now read the application.
This is an application by Ani Howe Street Corporation to amend CD1 643 Comprehensive Development District to 1335 Howe Street to increase the permitted floor space ratio from 12.12 to 12.29 to allow for the conversion of previously excluded in-suite storage floor area into regular residential floor area to accommodate revised floor layouts for this mixed-use building currently under construction. The changes are contained entirely within the previously approved form of development. No correspondence has been received on this application since referral to public hearing and prior to the close of the speakers list and receipt of public comments.
Thanks so much. So there for our speakers who wish to speak this item, please call toll-free 1-855-353-9183, followed by participant code 76816#. to get on the list before the close of the speakers list. And we're going to tweet out that number, and it's available on the live stream if you wish to view that. We have Lex Dominiak from the Rezoning Center here to present. I'm just checking with staff if we have, I'm just checking here, correspondence. There are no speakers to this item, so we have the option of waiving.
Move to waive presentation. Councillor Carr.
Okay, I'll just move along. Does anybody wish to see the presentation? Okay, so is the applicant team here to speak to the application?
Rodney Rao from the Ani Group is here to answer any questions.
Great, thanks very much. So this is the round, of course, Council, where we ask questions to staff and the applicant. Sorry, I just don't have my queue up here, but clerks, is there anybody on the queue to ask questions to staff and the applicant?
Mayor Stewart, it is the clerk here. We have no one on the queue at this point.
Okay, and just to let you know, my speakers panel is not up, so if you could have somebody log in and set that up for me, that would be great. We have, so I'm going to make a call then. If there are people who wish to speak to this item, please call toll-free 1-855-353-9183, followed by participant code 76816 to get on the list before the close of the speakers list. And this number will be tweeted out and available on the live stream. Clerks, I actually hear somebody, if you could just mute your microphone. I hear somebody in the background there, that would be great, if you could. So I'm going to check with the moderator. Is there anybody on the line to speak to this? Hello, moderator. Clerks, maybe we could check with the, I think it's a TELUS moderator who is helping us here with the calls.
Yes, Mayor Stewart, it is the clerk here. We're just checking to make sure. Yeah, just a moment, please.
Okay, thanks. I'll just read out that number again. If there's speakers who wish to speak to this item, please call toll-free 1-855-353-9183, followed by code 76816 hashtag. All that information is available on the live stream. And how are we doing, clerks? Are we... Anybody on the line or in the chambers?
Mayor Stewart is the clerk here. There is no one on the line.
Okay, so I've called once. I'm going to call a second time now. If there are any speakers who'd like to speak to this item, please call toll-free 1-855-353-9183, followed by code 76816 to get on the list. And that number is available on the live stream, so that's the second call for speakers. Council, I am going to call a third time, and then I'm going to take a 5-minute recess just to give people a chance to phone in. So this is the third and final call for speakers for this item, 1-855-353-9183, followed by code 76816 hashtag, 76816 hashtag to get on the list. I'm just going to check with the clerks. Is there anybody on the line or in the chambers to speak to this item?
There's no one on the line, Mayor Stewart.
Great. Okay, thank you very much. And so, Council, I'm going to take a 5-minute recess. We'll come back at 6:15 to continue on with this item. Thanks very much, and I'll call you back at just around 6:15. Thank you. 14. I'm going to check with the clerks. Clerks, is there anybody on the line or in the chambers to speak to this item?
Mayor Stewart, this is the clerk. There is no one in the chamber and there is no one on the line.
Great, thanks so much. As there are no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. I'm just going to go through my script here. As few or no public comments are received on this item after 5 p.m. today, I suggest we now close the receipt of public comments and move on to hearing closing comments and asking questions to staff. Does the applicant have any closing comments?
The applicant has no closing comments.
Thanks very much. Staff have any closing comments?
No closing comments from staff.
Thanks very much. I see you on the list, Councillor Carr. Do you have questions for staff?
No, I'm prepared to move the recommendations.
Thanks very much. Do we have a seconder?
Fry.
Thanks very much, Councillor Fry. I've got the queue open now. Is there any debate on this issue? I don't see anybody on the list, so I'm going to call the vote. Clerk, looking for Councillor Kirby-Yung, Councillor Wiebe, and Councillor Dejanova for votes. I thought Councillor Wiebe was here. Councillor Wiebe, we need you to vote. Councillor Dejanova is on leave. I've forgotten, so if you could mark her Councillor absent. Councillor Wiebe. Councillor Wiebe. Clerks, do we see? There we go. Okay, Councillor Wiebe has voted. Thank you, councillors. That has passed with Councillor Swanson in opposition. Thank you very much. We're going to move on to the next item, which is the rezoning on West 37th Avenue. Clerk, if you could read the application, please.
This is an application by GUD Group to rezone 526 to 528 West 37th Avenue from RT2 two-family dwelling district to CD1 comprehensive development district to permit the development of a 6-story residential building with 22 strata title units, a height of 20.2 meters, 66.2 feet, and a floor space ratio of 2.44 are proposed. The following correspondence has been received since referral to public hearing and prior to the close of the speakers list and receipt of public comments. One piece of correspondence in support. This represents all correspondence received up to 3 p.m. today.
Thanks very much for that. I'm just going to read out the number then. If you wish to participate on this item, please call 1-855-353-9183, followed by code 76816 hashtag. Clerks, there's quite a lot of static on the line. Maybe I could ask everybody to mute. Great, thanks very much. And all that information is on the live stream. We have Lex Dominex again from the Rezoning Center to speak to this, but I believe there are no speakers to this item either. Is that correct, Clerk? I'm just looking at my list here. I don't think there's speakers.
That is correct, Mayor Stewart. No speakers to item 2.
Okay, thanks. Does anybody want to see this presentation? If you do, just let me know, and then we'll hold it. If not, we'll just move on.
Move to waive the presentation.
Okay, thanks. If nobody else has spoken, so let's just move on. Let's just move ahead. Is the applicant team here to speak to the application? Clerks, do we have the applicant on the line?
I'm just checking.
Julie Hicks, the landscape architect, and I do see Jin Mai, the architect, on the line as well.
Okay, did you wish to speak to this application? Or just answer questions from council?
I'll answer questions. Jin Mai, do you want to speak to the item?
No, I don't have any comments for now. Ready for answer any questions.
Okay, great. So, Council, if there's any questions to staff or the applicants, and this again is the only opportunity we have to ask questions of the applicant. So if you have questions, please put yourself on the queue.
Mayor Stewart, I do need to bring your attention to the yellow memo, which would require action by council should council wish to move forward with this application.
Okay, thank you. And I'll just bring that to attention and remind council as we go through. Thanks, staff, for that. Great. So I'm going to read out this number then. I don't see any questions from staff, from the council to the applicant or staff. So I'm going to hear from the public now. If there are any speakers who wish to speak to this item, please call toll-free 1-855-353-9183, followed by participant code 76816, hashtag to get on the list. And I'm going to check clerks. Is there, I know I've nobody officially registered to speak to this. Is there anybody in the council chambers or on the phone to speak to this item?
This is the clerk here, Mayor Stewart. There is no one in the council chamber, and we still have no one on the line.
Thanks very much. I'm going to read out the number again and consider this the first call for speakers. Anybody who wants to speak to this item, please call 1-855-353-9183, followed by code 76816, hashtag to get on the list. And the phone number is on the live stream and is on Twitter. And I'm just going to check with you, clerk. This is my second call. Is there anybody on the line or in the chambers?
Still no one in the chamber nor on the line, Mayor Stewart.
Thanks very much. I'll have my third and final call, and then we will take a 5-minute recess just to make sure if everybody has adequate chance to participate. If there are any other speakers who wish to speak to this item, please call 1-855-353-9183, followed by code 76816, hashtag to get on the list. And that's on, info's on the live stream. So, council, we're going to take a 5 minutes. We'll be back at 6:27. And if there are no speakers, we'll move on to making a decision. Okay, so we'll see you at 6:27. 6:26, so just a minute before we come back. Clerks, is there anybody on the line or in the chambers?
Mayor Stewart, this is the clerk. There is no one on the line, and there is no one in the chamber.
Okay, thanks very much. So seeing there are no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. And as there were few or no comments received after 5 p.m. today, we'll close the list and move to closing comments or questions to staff. Applicant, have any closing comments?
No closing comments from applicants.
Thanks very much. Staff, have any closing comments?
No, staff have no closing comments. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Can we have a mover for the recommendation? Councillor Carr?
Councillor Carr?
Yes, sorry. So move with the recommendations in the yellow memo as well.
Thanks very much. I forgot to remind. That's just slid on that one. Thank you. Seconder on this?
Councillor Bly?
Thanks, Councillor Bly. Any debate? I'll just move us over to the queue. Anybody want to speak to this? I don't see anybody on the queue, so we'll call a vote on this one. And looking for Councillor Wiebe. Okay, great. That has passed with Councillor Swanson in opposition. Thank you, Council. And we're going to move on to item number 3, which is the rezoning on Rupert and Price Street. The clerk could read the application and summary of correspondence. That would be great.
This is an application by GBL Architects Incorporated to rezone 4506 Rupert Street and 3309 Price Street from C1 Commercial to RS1 Residential Districts to CD1 Comprehensive Development District to permit the development of a 5-story mixed-use building with 51 secured market rental residential units, including 4 live-work units. A height of 15.1 meters and a floor space ratio of 2.30 are proposed. The following correspondence has been received since referral to public hearing and prior to the close of the speakers list and receipt of public comments. 2 pieces of correspondence in opposition and 1 piece of correspondence dealing with other aspects of the application. This represents all correspondence received up to 5 p.m. today.
Thank you very much for that. Any speakers who wish to speak to this, please call 1-855-353. 9183, followed by code 76816 hashtag to get on the list before we close it. And the number's available on the live stream. Clerks, we still have a bit of static in the background. I can't help but think that comes from the TELUS line. If we can get people to mute, that would be great. Just checking on councillors, just checking here on correspondence. So we do have speakers to this council, so I'm going to ask the applicant team to walk us through the presentation. So we have Chi Chan from the Rezoning Center to lead us through that. If I can turn it over to you, Chi Chan, that would be great. Hi, staff. You may be on mute, but we're hoping to see the presentation. There we go. I can see it coming up now. Looks like me on the screen. There we go. Okay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Chi Chan. I'm a rezoning planner here. Just confirming that you can see the presentation and that you can hear me.
We can. Clerks, there is quite a lot of static in the background. Seems to have disappeared now. So, Mr. Chan, can we still hear you?
I hope so.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, that's a lot clearer. So thanks very much, and please proceed.
Okay, thank you. This application proposes to rezone a site at 4506 Rupert Street and 3309 Price Street under the Secured Market Rental Housing Policy. So this site is located in the Renfrew-Collingwood Community Vision Area at the intersection of Rupert Street, an arterial road, East 29th Avenue, a collector road, and Price Street, a local road. The site is currently zoned C1 for the majority of it, permitting mixed-use buildings, and 1 RS1 lot permitting single-family, duplex, and infill housing. The site is located at the southeast corner of a C1 local commercial node and surrounded by RS1 zoning to the south and east. So here is an aerial view of the site looking north. This irregular shaped site is approximately 1,700 square meters in size, with a frontage of about 31 meters along Rupert Street, 33 meters along East 29th Avenue, and 46 meters along Price Street. It's surrounded by two-story buildings and houses. So the C1 portion of the site is currently vacant, while there is a two-story house on the RS1 portion of the site, which is the white house that you can see here in the middle of this photo. There is one tenanted unit in the house, and the tenants are aware of this application. They're not eligible under the city's tenant protection and relocation policy because of the length of their tenancy. So here is a map of the services and amenities near the site. There are two local parks, Sir Wilfrid Grenfell Elementary and Windermere Secondary Schools within a 5-minute walk of the site. As previously mentioned, the site is located within a small neighborhood commercial service node, while more shopping, services, and restaurants are located around the Joyce Collingwood SkyTrain station, approximately 10-minute walk to the southeast. Just off the map to the northwest is the Renfrew Community Center and Renfrew branch of the Public Library. As noted in the staff report, enrollments at the local schools are below capacity, and according to VSB's long-range facilities plan, enrollment space is anticipated to be available in the coming years. The number 27 bus between Joyce Collingwood Station and the Kootenay Loop runs next to the site, although it's not a TransLink frequent transit service. The site is within a 10-minute walk of both the Joyce Collingwood and East 29th Avenue SkyTrain stations, which you can see on this slide. So this project is being considered under the Secured Market Rental Housing Policy, which was adopted by Council in 2012. After extensive public consultation, Council also approved the Housing Vancouver strategy in November 2017. The strategy seeks to develop 20,000 new secured rental units, of which this application will contribute 51 secured market rental units. On November 26, 2019, Council approved amendments to the Secured Market Rental Housing Policy and renamed it the Secured Rental Policy, or SRP. The SRP expands on the previous Rental 100 by consolidating existing rental rezoning policies together and introducing more stringent green building requirements. In terms of form of development, policy guidance under the SRP is similar to that of the R100 policy for this C1 zone site. While new rezoning applications and inquiries will be processed under the SRP, this application, which was received prior to November 2019, will be exempted from the SRP's more stringent green building requirements in order to ensure consistency and fairness for in-stream applications. So this application proposes to rezone the site to permit a 5-story mixed-use building with 51 secured market rental units, including 4 live-work units at grade fronting East 29th Avenue. Commercial units facing Rupert Street are also included, providing space for local serving businesses such as cafes. An FSR of 2.3 and a height of 49.5 feet are recommended. As part of the Restart Smart Vancouver initiative in response to COVID-19, this project will contribute approximately 180 new on-site and off-site construction jobs during the initiative's recovery phase. Here is a view of the project along its Price Street interface. This shows the transition of the 5-story mixed-use building to 3- and 2-story townhouses along Price Street, supporting the transition to the residential neighborhood to the east. And here's a view of the proposal along East 29th Avenue and the rear lane. The live-work units are shown along this frontage, and the 5-story building steps down to 4 and 3 stories next to the lane and residential houses to the east. As noted in the Council report, the original application on this site, received in February 2018, was for a principal 5-story mixed-use building, a separate 3-story townhouse building along Price Street, and a 2-story building housing the indoor amenity room over a parking down ramp, shown with the red arrows. Following recommendations from the Urban Design Panel and staff review, a revised application was received in November 2019 that simplifies the building layout by integrating the 3 buildings into one to create a better continuous facade along Price Street and provide for an expanded and contiguous outdoor amenity area in the central courtyard. The FSR increased slightly between the 2 submissions, from 2.14 to 2.3, to accommodate an increased number of rental units. However, due to the optimizations of the internal layout, the building's overall massing, setbacks, and relationships with adjacent neighbors was similar, if not slightly improved, with the revised application. So, under the secured rental policy, rezoning for C1 sites may consider a C2 form of development. This slide compares a C2 form in orange with that of this proposal in purple of the building's main East 29th Avenue and Rupert Street frontages. The building mostly fits within the C2 massing envelope, and portions that extend beyond this envelope are related to roof slab, elevator overruns, and mechanical room. The slight increase in height over the C2 envelope provides for an improved CRU and live-work unit heights. This proposal's residential component meets the bylaw definition of for-profit affordable rental housing, term specifically used in the Vancouver Charter, thereby qualifying the project for a waiver of the citywide and utilities DCL, estimated at approximately $984,000. The commercial portion of this building is also subject to DCLs at a value of approximately $96,800, which the applicant will pay. The proposed maximum average starting rents by unit type are set by the DCL bylaw and shown in the green column. For comparison, the average market rents for newer buildings on the east side are shown in the blue column, along with the average household incomes required for each rent level. The median household income in the Renfrew Collingwood neighborhood in 2016 was approximately $64,000. So while the DCL waiver starting rents are slightly higher than the average rents for newer buildings on the east side, renting these units will be subject to market conditions for this particular local neighborhood, and it's likely that starting rents may be below the DCL waiver average maximums. While rents in market units may not be affordable to all Vancouver residents, the DCL waiver helps enable development of much-needed secured rental housing. So the red column demonstrates the high cost of ownership versus renting. Based on CMHC data, monthly ownership cost of a median priced unit on the east side of Vancouver ranges from $2,200 for a studio unit to nearly $5,400 per month for a 3-bedroom unit. These ownership costs are calculated using BC assessment data along with recent sales price, a 10% down payment, 5% mortgage rate over a 25-year amortization period, and a $150 to $250 monthly strata fee and property tax. If approved, all units would be secured through a housing agreement, which would prohibit the stratification and separate sale of individual units for the life of the building. A pre-application open house was held in June 2017 and was attended by approximately 15 people. Following the submission of a rezoning application, a city-hosted open house was held in May 2018 and was attended by approximately 53 people. Application drawings and details were made available online following application submission, along with contact information for rezoning planners and a form to easily submit feedback. In total, we received approximately 40 pieces of feedback. We heard a variety of comments throughout the review of this application, and comments were categorized and sorted to understand the key themes of support and concern. They're presented in the council report, but I will discuss a few of them here. So we heard both comments in support and concern about the project's fit within this neighborhood, as well as to the availability of parking and pedestrian safety in the area and in the rear lane. I will illustrate the manner in which these have been addressed in the next few slides. Note that the conditions in Appendix B of the council report are intended to address the comments we've heard and reflect the revised proposal as presented this evening. With respect to the comments about neighborhood fit, this proposal includes many design and massing elements which facilitate its integration within this local neighborhood commercial node and residential houses to the east. First, the main facades along Rupert Street and East 29th Avenue are designed to read as a 4-story building with double-height CRU spaces provided for better retail spaces. Here along Price Street, the building purposefully includes a 3-story townhouses with landscape front yards and transitions to a 2-story massing against the neighboring RS1 lot. Together with a 12-foot landscape setback from the property line, this provides an amenable transition to the single-family houses to the east, which themselves could be built to 35 feet or 2.5 stories. Along the East 29th Avenue frontage, the building presents as a 3-story block against the rear lane, with the 4th and 5th stories stepped back further to reduce shadowing impacts, sense of massing, and overlook. Furthermore, the live-work use and their landscape front yards along East 29th Avenue supports the transition to a more residential character while providing opportunities for home businesses. In terms of parking and safety, the building's parking ramp was moved closer to the East 29th Avenue intersection, away from the center of the site, as was the case in the original application, in order to reduce the vehicle travel distance of cars going down the lane. Intersection and lane improvements at the East 29th Avenue and Rupert Street intersection are also required. And finally, public realm improvements such as expanded sidewalks, street trees, and lighting are required as part of this application's rezoning conditions. A small public plaza is desired in front of the CRUs along Rupert Street, although its final design is subject to meeting Metro Vancouver's requirements for access to its underground water infrastructure located in this public right-of-way right in front of the building. In conclusion, staff support this application subject to the conditions in Appendix B, as it is consistent with the secured rental housing policy. It would contribute a total of 51 secured rental housing units, all towards achieving the city's housing goals as identified in the Housing Vancouver strategy. Staff therefore recommend approval of this application, and staff and the applicant team are available to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Great, thanks so much for your presentation. Council, we can have questions now. Sorry, I'm going to hear from the applicant first. Does the applicant wish to say anything, or just answer questions from councillors?
Hi, this is Joey Stevens from GBL Architects, the applicant. We will just answer questions from council.
Great. Okay, thanks very much. Council, would you like to ask any questions to the staff or the applicant? And I've got questions here from Councillor Hardwick. Again, just to reiterate, this is your only time to ask questions directly to the applicant. Thanks so much. Councillor Hardwick, go ahead, up to 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. I'd be interested in hearing from both staff and the applicant about what inspired the live-work space. That's something that we don't see a lot of, and I'm frankly very interested to learn what inspired it and what has made this happen as far as the pro forma working on this development. Thank you.
Hello, Councillor Hardwick. This is Chi Chan, the rezoning planner. Thank you for the question. The live-work units were put in and suggested by the developer, and staff worked to integrate it within this development. Staff felt that it would be a very good, friendly transition towards the residential neighborhood to the east. In terms of the financing of it, live-work units are typically rented out like a residential rental unit with the possibility of running a business within. Certainly real estate has examined the pro forma and found that this application it's feasible with these live-work units. Thank you.
Councillor Harper?
That's great. No, that's great. That's terrific. This is a theme that I'd like to be learning more about over time. I think it's a real positive move. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks very much, Councillor Fry. Up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I had similar questions about the live work, but with those answered, do we have a sense of how the BC assessment will be treating the classification of these live work? I know there's been some new direction in how they split class live works now.
Hello, Councillor Fly. This is Chi Chan, rezoning planner again. Unfortunately, we don't have that information. I would ask if the applicant might have something to say about this.
Is the applicant there? you like to respond to this?
This is Joey Stevens from GBL. We don't have that information either. I know that the developer, Issam Dahimi, is also on the call. I maybe could defer to him if he knows anything about this.
Great.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, my name is Issam Dahimi. I'm part of the development team for this project. We don't have that information. Like Mr. Chan mentioned, we thought that would be an appropriate housing form. There are actually 3 different housing forms as part of this application for such a small site. There's stacked townhouses. There are 4 3-bedroom stacked townhouses on the other side of the site. There are live-work units and there are apartment units as well as retail commercial for such a small site. So we just thought that a different housing form would be appropriate for this site and given the massing and everything else. So that was the thought behind it. But we don't have the information with regards to the BC assessment and how they would treat that.
So further to that, will there be some kind of covenant on these live works then to ensure that they are live work?
Yeah, that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah, and I appreciate the work that's gone into it. It's an interesting built form, and I like the sort of intersection of space between the buildings and what you've done with that parking lot. Is this wood frame or concrete?
This would be a wood frame building with the retail portion would be concrete, but wood frame on top of concrete for the residential apartments.
Yeah, really interesting use of space. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Councillor Dominato, to the applicant or staff. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. And a question to the applicant. I was wondering if you could clarify for me the size of the retail commercial spaces at grade in terms of like square footage, because we're getting a lot of feedback on that. So I'm just curious if you could outline it for me.
Sure, I can answer that. They are, I'm just looking it up right here quickly. There is about 3,900 square feet of commercial space at grade. And there's a small mezzanine space within those.
Okay, so 3,900 square feet total, and there's 3, or is it 4? 3?
It's split
units?
into 3
okay.
units,
Okay.
yes.
Great. Thank you. My other questions were addressed.
Great. Thank you. Councillor Kirby-Young, up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. It's a question for the applicant, and following on Councillor Dominato's about the CRUs. And I noticed it says that they're demisable into smaller units. I just wonder if there's a vision or intent for leasing to local or to smaller businesses and to demise the space.
I can comment on that. Yeah, we have so as part of the commercial space, there's a mezzanine area included in that 3,900 square feet or so. The vision is for an application like a small cafe or it's such a prominent corner that we envision to have some sort of a public gathering space as part of that retail space. So either a cafe or a small restaurant or as part of the retail use. As mentioned, there are 3 separate units. So yeah, we envision some sort of a public gathering retail use on that corner.
That's great to hear. And then if it were possible for that service or cafe to be provided by a local business, would you aim to give priority to a local business or local cafe?
Absolutely. Yeah, I personally only drink local coffee and local beer. So
me too.
I'm heavily sided towards small local businesses, especially in that neighborhood and for this space and at this intersection. So definitely we're going to aim for a use that invites public to that space, and there's quite a bit of boulevard space across from the retail space, so it'd be a good public gathering space in that intersection.
Thank you. I'm really happy to hear that and to hear the recognition what ability you have to really create that sort of local flair. So thank you very much for that.
course.
Thank you, Councillor Kirby-Yung. And that is it for questions. And we'll move to this public now. We've got 2 listed members. Clerks, do we have the first speaker available? I'm just looking on my list. It is, where are we now? I have Rick Hurlbut.
It is the clerk.
Here.
Hello. Is this Mr. Hurlbut?
Yes.
Great. What we need, we'd like, if you're willing, is to just let us know if you're a resident of Vancouver, and then you can proceed with your 5 minutes.
Sure. My name's Rick Hurlbut. I live 4 blocks from the proposed development and welcome the additional rental accommodation that it brings to the neighborhood. Renfrew Heights is primarily single-family dwellings, some with basement suites and lane homes, but without the depth of housing options that provide for transitional housing. Whether it's young people out on their own for the first time but who want to remain close to family, or seniors looking to downsize but needing to remain near familiar services, every Vancouver neighborhood benefits from a mix of housing alternatives. The development will also include some much-needed retail space. Personally, I'm hoping for a convenience store or cafe, neither of which are currently within easy walking distance of where I live. I do want to put this project into context, though. It's easy for council to lose track of the overall zoning and building trends in every Vancouver neighborhood, so here's some important considerations. This project will add a proposed 51 rental units. Just 7 blocks away, at the intersection of Rupert and East 22nd Avenue, are 2 other projects currently under construction. The one on the southeast corner will add 98 rental units, while the one other, Kitty Corner, will add 55. Together, this is 204 units coming on stream in the next year or 2, which could add as many as 500 people to the immediate neighborhood. This is on top of new residents being added courtesy of those basement suites and laneway homes already mentioned. There's also some obvious property assembly happening on the northwest corner of Rupert and East 29th Avenue, and there's a strip of older, increasingly dilapidated retail spaces along the west side of Rupert between 22nd and 23rd Avenues that are ripe for redevelopment, which is to say, the project being discussed here today, along with the other 2 I mentioned, is not hardly the last of the densification likely to occur along this stretch of Rupert Street in the coming years. All of this does not concern me in and of itself. I am pro-densification. My concern, and why I'm speaking to you today, has to do with park space. Specifically that the Park Board has already identified my neighborhood as being one of the corners of Vancouver most deprived of park space. Those of you on council who were previously on Park Board know this to be true. The nearby Caribou and Carlton parks are both small and, in my opinion, inadequate to absorb additional densification. I know very well that allocating park space is the unique responsibility of the Park Board, but that does not absolve City Council from ensuring that, just because each of these development projects is relatively small in scale, that you shouldn't be paying attention to the bigger picture. Park Board needs your help in this. At this point, I will also direct my comments to City staff and specifically to the Planning Department. You must, and I say you must, from this point forward, negotiate with developers for additional park space in Renfrew-Collingwood. It may not be more than 2, 3, or 4 standard house lots in size, but it is imperative that you mark this down as a priority. Perhaps some land swaps or density concessions will be required, but however you do it, please do what so obviously must be done. Please do not add hundreds of new residents to my neighborhood without also ensuring that all of these apartment dwellers have some green space to enjoy and enrich their lives. Thank you.
Thanks very much, and I don't see any questions for you, so I appreciate you participating this evening. And I'm going to move on to the next speaker, who is It's Nathan Davidovich, who's on the phone.
Hello?
Hello. Thanks for calling
Yes.
in. Please go ahead up to 5 minutes.
Okay. Thank you, Mayor and Council. There's 51 parking spots, 51 units, and there's 34 parking spots proposed. But the city goal of having 2/3 of all trips by transit, active transportation by 2030 is not going to be achieved when we provide so much parking to these developments. Even if all the developments in the city in the next 10 years till 2030 are not provided with any parking at all, you still not get the 2/3 ratio for the city, because the population of the city is projected for the next 10 years is probably only 60 or maybe 70,000, maybe a bit more if council decide to really provide more housing for many people. The many other cities have changed to no minimum parking, and that's I presume one way of trying to get more people into transit and active transportation. But the goal of 2/3, as I said, is it's impossible to achieve that goal unless even if 100% of all the new residents that would come to Vancouver in the next 10 years would only use transit and active transportation, still the ratio would be only still around 50% of the people using active transportation and transit. And I sent a memo about all the cutbacks to the buses, the bus route 27, the Rupert bus has been cut back badly, and many other bus routes. And so you have that on my comments. And the city of Vancouver pays for its bus service, the operating cost in the city. We pay more than that. There could be a couple of routes that maybe don't quite pay for it, but then there's other routes that pay for it. So overall, the city of Vancouver is the only city in Metro Vancouver that pays for the operating costs of its bus service, but it gets the low end from TransLink that keep cutting the bus service, and they're going to be more cut back. I mean, today there were over 300 cancellation of trips, and then on September the 7th, there'll be more transit cutbacks to the city. So I don't know what you're going to do, but it's not the way to go. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much for calling in, and we don't have any don't have any questions for you, so really appreciate that. Moderator, I am going to call for other speakers who want to speak to this item. 1-855-353-9183, participant code 76816 hashtag. Is there anyone else on the line that would like to speak to this?
There are no new callers that have joined.
Thanks very much. Clerks, is there anybody in the chamber?
Mayor Stewart, this is the clerk. No one in the chamber.
Okay, so I'm going to consider that my first call for speakers. I'm moving to now the second call for speakers. 1-855-353-9183, followed by participant code 76816 hashtag to get on the list. And so I've done two calls. And I'm going to do a third call now, 1-855-353-9183, 76816 hashtag. All that information is available on the live stream and on Twitter. And what we'll do is council will take another 5-minute recess just to make sure we give people ample opportunity. So I will call us back at 7:05. Thanks so much. 7:04. Clerks, if I can ask you if there's anybody else on the line or in the chambers?
Mayor Stewart, there is no one in the chamber. If you could just give me a moment, I'm checking online.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Stewart, I'm going. The city moderator will speak.
City moderator speaking. If anyone would like to speak to item 3, CD1 rezoning 4506 Rupert Street and 3309 Price Street, please press 01 now. Again, if anyone would like to speak to item 3, CD1 rezoning 4506 Rupert Street and 3309 Price Street, please press 01 now.
Okay, we do have someone who just queued up.
Great. Okay, thanks very much.
Herbad Mofegi.
Great. If you could just let us know if you're a resident of Vancouver, and then you have up to 5 minutes to speak to this item.
Perfect. Can you hear me okay? Just making sure I'm coming through loud and clear.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Okay.
Please.
Okay. All right, I'll start. Hi, my name is Herbad Mashfegi. Everyone calls me Rod for short. I live in the Renfrew Heights area with my wife and 3 young children. Our home is located in that 10-minute radius that was shown earlier, the radius of the proposed development application, located at 4506 and 3309 Price Street. And I'd like to speak in support of the application. I think the proposal really demonstrates great sensitivity to the neighbors by stepping the building on both the northeastern and southeastern part of the building. The stepping itself also makes the building kind of unique in its architectural appeal, which is very nice for the neighborhood as well. It's great to see 3 different housing forms being proposed for this site. I think the live-work units, the rental townhouses, as well as the rental apartments alongside the neighborhood retail will really bring life to this intersection. And I know the live-work units were definitely a topic of conversation a little earlier as well. Frankly, it's also quite refreshing to see a 40%-ish, I forget the number, of the residences are family-friendly units and include 3-bedroom rental townhomes. Having 3 kids, I know how helpful it is to families to have ground-oriented 3-bedroom units, especially when they're young. And really, just I think my closing statement is my wife and I are encouraged to see this type of thoughtful and diverse development in our neighborhood and really look forward to seeing it being built in the near future. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for calling in. I don't see any questions for you, so that just thank you for your participation this evening. Council, I'm going to go back to the moderator then. Is there anybody else that'd like to speak to this item?
No one else has queued up to speak to this item.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. I'm so seeing there's no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. And sorry, just getting my sheet here. Right.
The recommendation, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, just actually, but first we have to go through the applicant first. So does the applicant have any closing comments?
Thank you. No closing comments from the applicant.
Thanks. Staff have any closing comments?
No closing comments, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Councillor Kirby-Yung, you're the only person on the queue. Do you have questions for staff or anybody else have questions for staff?
No, just waiting to move the motion and comment before we vote.
Okay, I don't see anybody else on the queue. So if you want to move the motion.
Yep, so moved.
To seconder?
Second, Councillor Dominato.
Okay, and so thanks. I'm going to move this over to the main queue. Councillor Kirby-Yung, you have the first 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I won't take that long. Just to say that I really appreciate and I'm supporting this application. I'm very delighted to see the variety of housing forms, as was mentioned by the speaker that we just heard from, in terms of the diversity of types and architecture on one site. I think the inclusion of the live work is a unique feature and really helps in terms of building complete communities. I appreciate the town homes and the rental, as was noted by the speaker. But I'm also particularly heartwarmed and grateful to see that the CRUs are demisable, but more than that, because they can physically be built that way, but often get leased to larger companies that the proponent appears to share a love of local, including local coffee and local brews, and is aspiring to have something like a cafe or something that's a gathering spot for the neighborhood. And one of my concerns sometimes when we have areas where we're only putting in residential without an accompanying CRU is that we don't have those local uses, and it works against having complete communities, as well as an opportunity to bring people together, and ideally to lease those spots when they are smaller, so that they're more affordable, but also a vision to lease them to local business. And I certainly heard that, that enthusiasm for aiming to do that here. So for me, that checks a lot of boxes for that reason. I did note the comment from Mr. Hurlbut around green space, and I think that's important that Council be cognizant of continuing to look to expand our green space and keep our ratio of accessible, walkable green space for people as our neighborhoods continue to densify. And so I think that's a thoughtful reminder, but I will leave it there and say that I'm happy to support this. Thank you.
Thanks. Folks on the call, councillors, I do hear a bunch of static in the background, so if we can just make sure to mute if you're not speaking, that would really help. Thanks. Councillor Swanson, up to 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Yes, I continue to be concerned about the high rents and the fact that we're giving almost $1 million in DCL waivers and no CACs. And I looked up the median rent for that neck of the woods, and it's $1,235, so about $1,236, about $400 less than a studio, and that's for median rents over all unit sizes. So we're definitely putting in more expensive rental than that neighborhood is used to. We've got to keep in mind that the average senior household, for example, has a median income of $22K. So yeah, I just think we have to work really, really hard to try and get more affordability in market and non-market housing that we approve.
Okay, thank you very much. Councillor Dominato, up to 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thank you to staff and the applicant. I just want to reflect a couple of thoughts on this proposal. I really appreciate the mix of housing and the diversity here, particularly the attention to including townhome, ground-oriented housing, as we've talked about before, that we're sorely lacking in, and also including the retail at grade commercial to activate the street. I think that's incredibly important and to support our small businesses. Also was pleasantly surprised with the built form. I don't usually comment on that, but I really thought that that the applicant has done a really good job of the design, but also the adaptations that staff spoke to in their presentation to respond to some of the neighborhood and resident feedback. And also, I like, and Councillor Hardwick commented on this, on the live work spaces and the potential for that and seeing more of that. And I think it's fantastic to see that was sort of the city and the applicant working together to incorporate that. So all around, I really think it's a fantastic project, and I'm supportive of it this evening.
Thanks very much. Councillor Fry, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I do share some of Councillor Swanson's concerns, ongoing concerns around DCL waivers and what that means to the loss of complete communities for market rents in exchange for market rentals. That being said, I do find that the design, as others have commented, is actually quite exceptional and does provide, I think, significant public benefits just by virtue of taking, a big vacant lot and converting it and adding so much sort of housing diversity, including with the live work and the retail store frontages, and the addition of some trees, which I see as kind of neglected in that part of town, and it certainly looks like it could use more tree canopy. I hope, in fact, I would have loved to see more addition of trees and greenery in the landscape planning, but I do think it does quite a pretty good job, and I'm really quite taken with the design of the building, and so despite my traditional reluctance to support DCL waiver projects of this nature, I will support this project.
Thank you. Councillor Hardwick, up to 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
Well, Councillor Fry actually took the words right out of my mouth. While I agree with Councillor Swanson, these are market rent, and they are not going to be accessible to the majority of the people that live in this area. I am persuaded, in particular because of the introduction of live workspace and in this location, which I see as a real positive and something that has merit, I think, post-COVID around the city, and something that we should be encouraging. It takes me back actually to when we first started talking about live workspace back in the mid-90s, and you know, it's taken this long to start to catch on and more in the mainstream of development. So I just wanted to, I'm going to support this for that reason, but I think it's important though to continue to look at the loss of through the DCL waiver, particularly as one of the speakers pointed out, the shortage of green space for people that are living in increased density in this neighborhood, which is already underserved. So we have to keep that front of mind, because complete communities include green space, but they also include commercial space, and I think live work in an interesting way combines those. So for that reason, I will support.
Thanks so much. And I don't see anybody else on the queue to speak, so we'll call a vote on this. And that has passed with Councillor Swanson in opposition. Thanks, Council. Oh, also, clerks, could you make sure that you display the votes on the screen? I keep forgetting to ask for that, and that's been requested by many councillors, so just want to make sure we keep doing that. Thank you. Okay, Council, we're moving on to number 4, the last item on our agenda tonight, which is East 12th Avenue, am I right? Yeah, that is the last item. So East 12th Avenue. So clerks, if you could read the summary correspondence.
This is an application by Brightside Community Homes Foundation to rezone 1425 and 1451 East 12th Avenue from RM 11N Medium Density Residential District to CD1 Comprehensive Development District to permit the development of 2 residential buildings with a total of 157 social housing units for seniors. A height of 20.7 meters and a floor space ratio of 2.47 are proposed. The following correspondence has been received since referral to public hearing and prior to the close of the speakers list and receipt of public comments. 38 pieces of correspondence in support, 10 pieces of correspondence in opposition, and this represents all correspondence received up to 5 p.m. today.
Thank you so much. I'm just looking at the speakers here, Council. So we do have a number of speakers signed up for this item. So just to keep that in mind, if there are any speakers who are not on the list or are and you wish to speak to Council, please call 1-855-353-9183 followed by code 76816 hashtag to get on the list. We have Marcel Gelling here from the Rezoning Center to present to us this evening. So please go ahead.
Thank you. Just want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay?
Yes, I can. I just to remind everybody, if you're not speaking, to mute, that would be great so we don't get any background noise. Thanks so much. Please go ahead.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Marcel Gelling, rezoning planner for this application, which proposes to rezone the site at 1425 and 1451 East 12th Avenue under the Grandview Woodland Community Plan. To facilitate implementation of the Grandview Woodland Community Plan, the city pre-zoned the immediate area of the subject site in 2018 to a new 4-story district schedule called RM11N, which anticipates development up to 1.7 FSR. The areas to the north and further south retain the original RT5N zoning, which encourages retention and renovation of existing character houses by permitting development to 3 stories at a density of 0.85 FSR. The site is comprised of 2 legal parcels located mid-block between Clark and Woodland Drive on the north side of East 12th Avenue. The total site area is approximately 36,000 square feet. The site has a frontage of 271 feet along East 12th Ave, with a depth of 115 feet along the western property line and 136 feet along the eastern property line. The site is currently developed with 2 existing senior social housing buildings owned by Brightside Community Homes, a Vancouver-based nonprofit housing provider. The buildings were constructed in 1962 and 1971, respectively. The West Building, Loyal Orange Manor, is a 2-story building with 21 units. The East Building, Edward Byers House, is a 3-story building with 36 units. At the time of application, 43 of the 57 units were tenanted. There is an existing Metro Vancouver sewer right-of-way on the south and west perimeter and one down the middle of the 2 sites. No construction is permitted within the right-of-ways. However, this provides opportunities for additional landscaping and larger outdoor amenity spaces for tenants. The site is located within a 10-minute walk of the commercial Broadway SkyTrain station, located to the northeast, and a 15-minute walk of 8 public parks. Cultural and community spaces within a 15-minute walk include Mount Pleasant Neighborhood House and Trout Lake Community Center. Rezoning potential for the site is guided by Section 7.1.3 of the Grandview Woodland Community Plan, which allows for consideration of modest increases in height and density to assist with project viability where new social housing is proposed. The commercial Broadway Station precinct area is a transit-oriented neighborhood with a mix of land uses and building scales. The plan seeks improved streetscapes, greater diversity of housing options, and a mix of employment opportunities. The plan identified the need for an additional 1,750 non-market housing units to meet the demands of this area. Under the Grandview Woodlands Community Plan and the RM11N zoning, the intended building form is a 4-story T-shaped apartment up to 1.7 FSR. This is to provide a gentler transition to the properties across the lane and reduce shadows to the north. The application proposes to rezone the site from RM11N to CD1 to permit the development of 2 6-story residential buildings for 157 units of social housing. The units will be owned and operated by Brightside to provide housing primarily for seniors or persons with special needs. The application proposes a floor area of approximately 89,000 square feet at a density of 2.47 FSR and a height of 68 feet. 33 vehicle and 162 bicycle parking spaces are provided underground. The applicant is also proposing to obtain a passive house certification. As part of the Restart Smart Vancouver initiative in response to COVID-19, this project will contribute to approximately 550 new on-site and off-site construction jobs during the initiative's recovery phase. The unit mix of the proposed development includes 99 studio units, of which 31 will be adaptable to allow partitioning for a sleeping or office area, and 58 of the units are 1-bedrooms. While the city's social housing guidelines seek to deliver a range of unit types within each project, Brightside has proposed a portfolio approach to their properties, with some sites more focused on the needs of singles and seniors and others on families. The applicant has proposed 2 L-shaped buildings instead of the T-shaped apartment form anticipated in the Grandview Woodland Community Plan. However, the proposed form interprets and expresses the plan's objectives and addresses the goals of the Housing Vancouver strategy with respect to senior social housing. Overall, support of the proposed form of development is based on the following points. Housing a vulnerable population. Staff acknowledge the proposal leads to some private properties being shadowed across the lane to the north and east. However, the proposal results in the delivery of additional housing units for seniors and more units situated away from the road. Number 2, wider setbacks. Wider rear and side yard setbacks than what is required in the base zoning and Grandview Woodlands community plan are proposed for the east building. 3, the courtyard. The courtyard along East 12th Avenue expands the perceived public realm and aids in tree retention, in addition to providing a visual break along the busy street. 4, statutory right-of-way. The provision of a statutory right-of-way for public pedestrian use over the Metro Vancouver sewer right-of-way that bisects the site. And lastly, 5, tree retention. Conditions in Appendix B require tree retention at the northeast corner to help screen the building from neighbors and soften the 6-story wall along the north and east property lines. The following slides demonstrate the contrast between the proposed development and the form expected under the Grandview Woodlands Community Plan and RM11N district schedule. As noted under the Grandview Woodlands Community Plan and the base zoning, the intended building form is a 4-story T-shaped apartment up to 1.7 FSR. This image shows in elevation the difference between permitted building height in blue through the RM11N district schedule and the proposed 6-story building height in the rezoning application. RM11N side yard setbacks are shown here as vertical lines in orange. Council, you'll notice the anticipated T-shaped apartment in blue is lower and wider with a smaller side yard setback than the proposed development. This slide demonstrates the proposed L-shaped building footprint in red in contrast to the T-shaped building footprint in blue. Please note with the proposed form of development that 2 significant on-site trees will be retained. In accordance with standard city protocols, the applicant was required to conduct a shadow analysis of the spring and fall equinoxes between the hours of 10 a.m. and 2 p.m. This shadow study demonstrates the projected shadows at 2 p.m. during the equinoxes, which are generally the same. Shadowing during the summer solstice is significantly less. The left image demonstrates the shadow of a 6-story T-shaped apartment compared to the L-shaped form in red on the right. You'll notice the L-shaped building's shadow is wider and shallower than the T-shaped, which is longer and narrower. The L-shaped form adds additional shadows to 2 properties across the lane to the north, one of which is another Brightside property. With respect to on-site tenants, 43 of the units were tenanted at the time of application. Most recently, 27 tenants remain on site, of which 6 are in the process of relocating. The applicant has maintained regular contact with all on-site tenants, including 2 tenant meetings that the city attended. Brightside has also communicated with tenants throughout the application process, including individual interviews, meetings, and holding drop-in hours. All tenants are covered by the tenant relocation plan, which is in Appendix C of the report and includes, but not limited to, financial compensation including $1,000 per unit or 1 month free rent, 4 months notice to end tenancy, assistance with moving expenses, permanent rehousing options within Brightside's existing housing portfolio or alternative housing options in Vancouver or outside if requested, and first right of refusal, specifically all current tenants may return to the completed building at existing rents. This project will meet the city's definition of social housing with minimum 30% of the units rented to households with incomes under the BC Housing Income Limits Levels, or HILLS, and the remaining 70% at rental levels up to market rent. As the proposal replaces 57 existing units, Brightside will exceed the affordability requirements of social housing by securing a minimum 36% of the building as affordable to households with incomes below Hills. The 57 units will be rented at levels which qualify for rent supplements under the Shelter Aid for Elderly Residents or Safer Rent Subsidy Program. Maximum rent ceilings for the Safer program in Metro Vancouver are currently $806 for singles and $866 for couples. Eligible residents who are age 60 or over would receive a monthly cash payment through Safer to subsidize their units. For the remaining 100 units, Brightside will continue to seek deeper levels of affordability pending additional government funding. A pre-application open house was held in July 2019 and was attended by approximately 53 people. Following submission of the rezoning application, a city-led open house was held on February 4th, 2020, and was attended by approximately 44 people. In total, staff received approximately 36 pieces of feedback, with an additional 2 pieces received between city manager report concurrence and referral. Key themes of support included the provision of affordable housing, building height, density, and massing, contribution to neighborhood renewal, unit layout and design. Key themes of concern included the outdoor amenity space, parking, building height, density, massing, and building setbacks. Further, in response to concerns received from a group of immediate neighbors, staff met with them via WebEx on April 17, 2020. Concerns were primarily focused on shadows and lack of spatial relief due to the east building's proximity to the north and east lanes. Staff explained variances to the plan are typically only supported for projects that deliver a public benefit, such as non-market housing. Conditions in Appendix B aim to minimize their concerns, specifically around design development to the exterior of the buildings and the tree retention for the northeast corner of the site. In regards to the outdoor amenity space, comments of concern focused on the proximity of the space to East 12th. To buffer the outdoor amenity space, tree retention is proposed of the large maple located at the edge of the outdoor amenity. Also, conditions in Appendix B require planting beds and landscape articulation as a buffer from the street. Reduced parking requirements lower the overall project cost to support the delivery of social housing. The project will comply with the Vancouver parking bylaw, and the applicant is proposing a transportation demand management plan which provides for reductions in minimum parking requirements. The applicant is eligible for an additional 10% reduction in parking due to the site's proximity to the commercial Broadway SkyTrain station and bus service on Clark Drive. Combined, the applicant is eligible for a total reduction of 50% to vehicle parking requirements. Building height, density, massing, and setbacks. Under the Grandview Woodland Community Plan, increased height and density is permitted to facilitate the development of social housing. In regards to setbacks, the east building is set back 22 feet from the rear property line and 20 feet from the east property line. This is more than the typical 20 feet and 7 feet, respectively, recommended in the RM11N district schedules and the Grandview Woodlands Community Plan, helping to provide more volumetric relief between the proposed building and the existing houses across the north and east lanes. Conditions in Appendix B require the applicant to reduce the appearance of bulk and width by introducing variation to the cladding. Further, tree retention and replacement will assist with buffering the buildings from the street and neighboring properties. Overall, the proposed design aims to balance housing unit requirements, program operations, on-site open space, passive house requirements, statutory right-of-way restrictions, tree retention, and setbacks. In summary, staff recommends approval of this application to rezone 1425 and 1451 East 12th Avenue from RM11N to CD1, subject to the conditions outlined in Appendix B of the report, as it meets the intent of the Grandview Woodland Community Plan with respect to the delivery of social housing. If approved, the application would contribute 157 new social housing units to help reach the city's goals identified in the Housing Vancouver strategy. Staff and the applicant team are available to answer questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation. And now, Council, I'm just going to ask if the applicant team is here to speak to the application.
We are.
Great. I see that you have, in my notes anyway, it says you have 5 slides to present to us. Is that something you still want to present?
Yeah, I'll just turn it over to William Azaroff, the CEO of Brightside, to present.
Great. Okay. Thanks very much. Do you need assistance from the clerks to help with the presentation?
Mayor Stewart, this is the clerk here. The presentation is on the screen.
Oh, okay. So we'd have to hit the orange cone in order to see it?
Yes.
Great. Council, I'll just get you to do that.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Clerks, I do have the orange cone up, but there we go. Okay, I see the presentation now.
Excellent. I was having trouble with my audio. And you can hear me now?
I can absolutely hear you. Please go ahead whenever you're ready.
Excellent. So, hi, thanks for having me. I'm William Azaroff. I'm the CEO of Brightside Community Homes Foundation. And good evening, Mayor and Council. I just want to acknowledge that I'm calling in from the traditional unceded territory of the Coast Salish of the Tsleil-Waututh, Musqueam, and Squamish people. So I can't actually see the slides, unfortunately, so maybe we can go to slide 2.
Yeah, I can just help you there. So
awesome.
that slide begins about Brightside.
Perfect. Thank you. So Brightside is a charitable not-for-profit. We've been around since 1952, providing affordable housing in the city of Vancouver for almost 70 years. And as you can see, our mission is to build resilient communities throughout Vancouver with safe and secure homes for those struggling to meet the demands of market housing. Next slide.
And I'll just let you know when it's up. There we go. It's up.
It's a map?
Yep.
Awesome. So as you can see, we have 26 buildings all in the city of Vancouver, and we work hard to ensure that all of our 944 homes are as affordable as we can make them. And we believe in providing more affordable housing for seniors. And we're in a process of redeveloping some of our older buildings that have reached the end of their useful life. And the 2 buildings that are before you tonight, as Marcel mentioned, are 50 and 60 years old. And we want to modernize them so people can thrive who live there. So next slide.
There we go. It's up.
Thank you, Mayor. We want to continue the legacy of affordable housing into the next 70 years of Brightside activity. We believe the built form, such as in front of you tonight, can reduce social isolation and providing accessible places to live, community spaces, will serve residents over the long term. And the last and final slide.
Yeah, it's up.
And we believe in 2 goals around this project especially, which is providing affordable housing, but in a way that seriously considers the impact of climate change on our communities, which is why we're pursuing Passive House certification on these 2 buildings in front of you. So with that, I'm going to pass over to other members of the team.
Great. Thanks very much.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Warren Schmidt. I'm one of the architects on the project, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much. Set it for the presentation by the applicant.
And so my name's Gerard Morani. I'm the project manager for the team, and so I can answer any other questions from the staff and council.
Great, thanks very much. Now I'm going to move to council, and do you have any questions for staff or the applicant? And just a reminder that this is your only chance to ask questions of the applicant. Please also remember that it is just on this proposal as well. Okay, Councillor Boyle, please go ahead, up to 5 minutes.
Thanks. I have two questions for the applicant team. And the first is I'm interested to hear how many of the residents in the current buildings have you been able to relocate into other Brightside buildings?
William, do you want to answer that one?
Sure. So thanks, Councillor Boyle. So all of them so far, and the reason why it's not fully occupied is that we want to make sure that we find people the right places to live, and preferably within the Brightside portfolio. So we started the relocation early, and everyone's moved within the Brightside portfolio, which means we pay for their move, we give them the amount of money, and we also keep their rents the same. Their rent is calculated rent geared to income, so the calculation remains the same.
Great, that's great news. My other question is, if you were able to go above 6 stories, would you be able to? Would you want to? Would that mean you could provide more non-market housing for seniors?
So thanks for that question. So we obviously are trying to keep the project kind of within the context of the Grandview Woodlands Area Plan, noting what's permitted under zoning, and then obviously that moderate increase. So I think Marcel pointed out rightly that there is a number of constraints to the site, specifically around the Metro Vancouver right-of-way, that constrains a lot of kind of what we can build on the site because of the expansion of the right-of-way that actually is going to be happening through the rezoning. And so while we did look at adding additional density beyond the 6 stories, we, in conversations with with staff, we felt that it wouldn't be supported in the neighborhood and by staff. And so that's why we kept with the 6-story build form, and it'll all be wood frame, 6-story.
Okay, fair enough. Thank you for that answer. I actually have one more question, which is with the addition of new sites once these 2 new buildings, if these 2 new buildings are approved and they're built, would you then be able to use some of those new housing units to move residents in order to rebuild other buildings? Is that some of the vision?
So in other words, could we use some of other buildings as swing space?
Yeah, or use the added space in these new buildings sort of as swing space for other sites to be redeveloped and added to.
Yeah, so we're depending on the timing, we may or may not be able to use them for our other redevelopments, but we're talking to other not-for-profit housing providers to be able to have a swing space kind of strategy amongst ourselves. So they may help us out if we need additional space beyond what we can provide within our own buildings, and would provide the same back to them when the buildings are done. If we can use that swing space for ourselves, we absolutely will. It just depends on the timing of these 4 applications.
Great. Great to hear. Thank you, Mr. Azaroff.
Thanks very much. And we've got Councillor Swanson next. Up to 5 minutes, Councillor Swanson.
Yeah, a couple of questions for the applicant. What is it that enables you to get SAFER for your residents? I thought SAFER didn't work in nonprofit housing.
Thanks for that question. So SAFER eligibility is determined for this project because there is no ongoing subsidy for the building. And so and all of the units within the building will be SAFER eligible. And that is obviously SAFER eligibility is subject to the tenant, so that's 60 years plus and any of the smaller kind of other criteria. And so 100% of the units will be SAFER eligible pending on tenant eligibility for the building.
So when you say you're going to try for greater affordability, does that mean that you can't get like grants from us and under the CHIP program or other grants from, say, the province or the feds, because then your folks wouldn't be eligible for SAFER?
No, you can have capital grants for projects and still have SAFER eligibility. It's more about the ongoing subsidies. And so if anyone's familiar with the Community Housing Foundation from BC Housing, where they provide an ongoing operating subsidy, all of those units would be ineligible for SAFER because of there would be a subsidy coming from that program and then also a subsidy for the building. And so BC Housing looks at it almost as double dipping. And
so it would probably help you if the SAFER limits were raised up from 803 or and 866 or whatever they are.
Absolutely, yeah. So all of the units, regardless of the ones that you guys are securing, that staff is or council is securing with the housing agreement, will be eligible for SAFER. But the whole the other question that you asked around increasing affordability. So we will be pursuing additional grants from CMHC, City of Vancouver CHIP, as well as BC Housing Hub, and then the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. It's just a function of sequencing, and so unfortunately we're not able to apply for a number of the grants, including the CHIP program, until after we have public hearing. And so a lot of those grant funders are looking for security that the project is going forward from a municipal level.
Okay.
And so we are committing to as much affordability as we can at this point.
So how does the timing of this development fit with the timing of the Alice Saunders place? It seems like if you got this one built, then it would be perfect for the Alice Saunders people to move over there while their building was being renovated or rebuilt.
William, did you want to answer that one?
Sure. Thanks, Councillor Swanson. So, like I answered to Councillor Boyle, it just depends on the timing, but the Alice Saunders redevelopment or the rezoning application is into the city. We expect a public hearing, hopefully by the end of the year. So we may not be able to use this particular building as swing space, but we do have 26 buildings and are working with the residents to find them the best possible place to live, either within our portfolio or with other not-for-profits located nearby.
And you've got 43 units that are still tenanted, is that right?
No, I think that was at the time of application that Marcel quoted. I don't have the latest number in front of me, but there's less than that now. The building is only, I think, 40% tenanted at this point.
Okay, so, okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Carr, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I just have two questions. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first question has to do about your tenant relocation plan, and we have, as councillors, received actual letters from people that are in your buildings saying that they're very appreciative of the move and the support for the move into your other buildings. But my question is, how have you thought about, or are you considering bringing back together the residents in order to maintain the kind of community that they have enjoyed?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Carr. So if I understand your question correctly, so every single resident who is relocated will be offered a chance to move back, paid for, and their rent calculation stays the same. So we do hope that all the residents move back. Given the age of the population, I've talked to many residents who say, I'm not sure I have two moves, that I want to do. So they're finding a new place to live, and when they don't decide now, when the building's done, they can absolutely move back in to preserve that community that they have today.
Okay, that's good. That's what. Yes, that answers my question. My second question is around the certified passive house standard, and there are people that say it's more expensive to build a certified passive house. I'm wondering what your analysis has been on the cost, the incrementally more cost to build a certified passive house, and what you have assessed to be the potential return on investment and or even quality of living experience in a certified passive house building.
Maureen, did you want to answer that one?
Certainly, I can speak to parts of that question. Thank you, Councillor Carr. The benefits of building to certified passive house are well documented and well known. It's a standard that has been flourishing in Europe for 30 plus years. The benefits are better indoor air quality, better indoor thermal comfort, which is a key consideration given our current warming climate. It is also about the stability in indoor air temperature and indoor thermal comfort, which is a key consideration for the seniors population and at-risk population. When it comes to cost and balance the return on investment, just as with any form of building, it's really, we're dependent upon supply chains. So additional premiums or so forth of building to passive house are really just about supply chain maturity, and it is rapidly increasing in the Lower Mainland. A lot of the supply chain, as an analogy or anecdotally, I should say, a few years ago, there was a definite premium to build to passive house because there was only really one window supplier available. We now have upwards of 7 to 8 locally and more springing up along the West Coast and throughout North America. So again, it comes down to that supply chain and the knowledge among the constructors. And the benefits come from 80 to 90% reduction in energy usage because you just have a more robust and durable and well-insulated building envelope.
So I imagine that 80 to 90% reduction in energy use has definite financial positives in terms of the operational costs over the long term.
Very much so, which is a key consideration for an affordable housing provider, trying to reduce operating costs, and especially in passing on any of those operating costs to any tenants is a key consideration.
Great, thank you. That's very, very informative. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Weed, questions to staff or the applicant?
Yeah, I guess my first question is to either or. This site is sitting on a historical stream and one that's really critically important, as well as the Brightside property to the north. So I'm wondering how the building can utilize that design to connect and do placemaking between the two properties and really ensure that people feel connected to the land and waters that the building sits on. So I guess that would be to the proponent, and then staff, what are the opportunities for us to move forward with ensuring that projects like this can be part of a linear process so that we can have really connected communities where people can walk safely and ensure the biodiversity is connected.
So thank you for that question. This has been also one of the key considerations kind of in design from the project from inception. And so we do note that map that you're referring to where the China Creek stream is noted. And so we have spent a considerable amount of time figuring out kind of what is the extent of that stream and if it still is around. And so there has been a phase 1 and a phase 2, and as part of the rezoning conditions, there is a requirement for a hydrological study. So we haven't submitted that formally to staff, but we do have the results back from that on the number of boreholes that were done on the west side of that property. And so what we can confirm is that there is fill underneath the west building. That fill is perceived to be where the stream used to be, because that stream follows the general direction of that Metro Vancouver trunk line that bisects the property and then goes underneath the property to the north. And so we can confirm, as per the hydrological study, that there is no moving groundwater. And so while there is the map that did note that there was a stream there, that stream has been filled in. We can confirm that it's been filled in based off of the boreholes. And we can confirm based on the hydrological study that will be submitted to staff that stream is no longer in existence. And so there is no groundwater movement beyond what would be typical for any site of this category. And so we have made sure that we're kind of trying to use that right-of-way to the best of our ability to connect folks in the neighborhood and the residents. And obviously that right-of-way will be expanded for Metro Vancouver, and then it will be a public access realm. But the stream is no longer operational.
But have we looked at opportunities to kind of create historical kind of markers and rain garden component that would kind of connect 12th Avenue through the property and through the other property to Cedar Cottage, so that members of your building would be able to enjoy the public realm that would have been there hundreds of years ago?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we've also had that conversation with Marcel, and him and I have kind of discussed around some sort of wayfinding options that could really kind of do exactly what you're requesting. providing that connection to the land and kind of connection to the biodiversity that existed below the buildings before the buildings were there. And so I don't know if Marcel, if you want to add on to that, but I can leave it to you.
This is Cameron Owen. I can speak to that if you'd like, Marcel.
Yeah, go ahead, Cameron. Thanks.
Okay. I'm a senior planner in the Green Infrastructure branch. We are leading watershed planning initiatives and blue-green system portfolios, which relate pretty specifically to what Councillor Wiebe is talking about. We're familiar with the site and some of the conditions that historically have occurred with streams, the way they were developed and turned into part of the utility system. I think upon review of the application, we were pleased to see that the site meets the rainwater management and groundwater management requirements, which is really important for managing water, drainage waters, rainwater that goes into our sewer systems. But in terms of the sewer right-of-way and the path connection, it was noteworthy that the applicant developed a permeable pathway and an absorbent landscape, which will help manage the water that falls on that portion of the site. And I think that there is a good opportunity, and I think the applicant has alluded to that, to try and celebrate somehow or acknowledge the historic alignment of that branch that would have led into China Creek. And so I think that is an opportunity that exists on the site, given the form and the existing design decisions that have already been made. And maybe I'll leave it at that, and then I can answer any other questions.
Yeah, we're at the 5 minutes already, Councillor Wiebe.
Yeah, am I able to move the report, and then I have an amendment?
Okay.
I guess we'll go to speakers.
Yep, we got a number of speakers here. So that's the applicant comments. Sorry, I'm just looking at my script here. And right. So yeah, now we're going to hear from the public, and I'm just looking at my list here, Council. Okay, we've got Colleen McGuinness, who is signed up to speak to us by phone. Clerks, do we have Ms. McGuinness?
This is the clerk here. Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Colleen McGuinness, and I am the chair of your Seniors Advisory Committee. And I'm here to speak in favor of this project on behalf of the Advisory Committee members and our Seniors Housing Subcommittee. We're pleased to support the City Report and the proposal from Brightside Community Homes Foundation regarding the rezoning of 1425 and 1451 East 12th. And I have to say, it's a delight to be able to say that somebody has really stepped up to provide the kind of affordable seniors housing that's required. I won't go into the details. We submitted a letter, which you should have in front of you. Your staff have very articulately presented the statistical information about the number of housing units, the hills limit, etc. I would like to just correct one thing. Our letter implies that this is on city leased land, and that's, we recognize, incorrect. But we would like that this remain as affordable housing for the life of the building. So in conclusion, our position is delight at the proposal for increased affordable housing stock for seniors, especially vulnerable seniors, and we applaud the efforts of Brightside. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your time. And I don't see any councillors on the queue to ask you questions, so I just want to thank you first for your service to the city and for coming in today to speak to us. Really appreciate it.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. I'm going to move on to the next speaker. We have Stephen Boas, who is in person, apparently, clerks. Mr. Boas there to speak to us?
Mayor Stewart, Mr. Boas is just coming into the chamber and getting himself set up. I will let you know when he's ready.
Yeah, that's fine.
And do you think?
No, that's fine. That's fine. Could I have my
Okay.
slides up, please?
Okay, Council, I guess we can expect slides here. So just a reminder that it will be your orange cone.
We're just preparing the slides, and they're coming up on the screen, Mayor Stewart.
Great, I can see them here now. And so, Mr. Boas, whenever you're ready, I'll start your clock, and you have up to 5 minutes, and I'll give you a warning at about 4 minutes, 30 seconds.
All right, thank you very much, Mayor and Council. My name's Stephen Boas. I'm a renter in Grandview Woodland, and I have a degree in landscape architecture. I work in the visual effects industry. If I have next slide, please. The planners mentioned parts of the Grandview Woodland Plan. I'm going to talk more about the Grandview Woodland Plan, but back to their open house, there's a panel that references a land use map with a 4-story apartment zone and mentions policy 7.13, which speaks about modest increases in height and density, only height and density subject to fit with the neighborhood context. So as relaxation. And we can decide whether going from 4 to 6 is a modest or a significant increase, but that's the policy. Next slide, please. However, there's also section 6.7.2 of the plan, and this is key because this actually drills into the details of what's allowed. And you can see that planning staff have said that this is following the Grandview Woodland Community Plan, and I would beg to differ. This information is on the policy report, open house, given to the UDP. Next slide, please. The plan passed in July of 2016. At that time, it was actually currently zoned as RT5N. So if you see those words currently zoned, it's RT5N. And I can go into this in more detail, but next slide, please. I'll speak to something that's even more general that applies to all slides. There's a minimum 80-foot separation between the buildings that's required because these buildings are both above 60 feet in height, and they should be spaced at least 24.3 meters or 80 feet from another building of that height. So clearly here, the plan is not being followed. It does not meet that requirement. Actually, there's about a 35-foot separation between the two buildings that both exceed 60 feet in height. So this does not meet the policy. Next slide, please. There's a section about maximum floor plate size, 6,500 square feet. As both buildings are above 60 feet, and I'm looking at the 6th floor, the second building, the 1451 East 12th, has a floor plate area of 8,921 square feet, which is well in excess of the maximum policy. So this does not meet the policy. Next slide. The other building does not meet the policy either. In terms of maximum floor plate, it exceeds it as 7,678 square feet. Next slide. The policies that apply towards setbacks in this section for this site is a rear setback of 9.1 meters or 30 feet. That's approximately 30 feet on the drawing, and you can see that the rear yard setback does not meet the policy. Next slide. Also, the other building does not meet the rear setback. You can see that on the illustration. And my concern here is that this is about the 5th time that I've noted that the Grandview Woodland Community Plan is not being met. It was not met on the Grand Street rezoning and several of the others that I've listed there. Next slide. If you look at the illustrations, well, you think that that building isn't that high. Well, this is a view on Kingsway taken with the standard 35 millimeter camera or with a 50 millimeter lens. This is across the street on a wider street. So this is how 6 stories looks like. Next slide. Doesn't look like this illustration. And actually, this illustration is an impossible illustration because it's taken from, it's not eye level. It's not a true perspective in terms of a 3-point perspective. It's taken actually from behind a hedge. Next slide. And there's the hedge. And it's from the other side. So it's not a real photograph, and staff wouldn't be able to reproduce it. Next slide. Here's some illustrations of different camera lengths. I would say that the 50 millimeter lens is a much better choice here. But the fisheye is actually plausible lens, but you wouldn't use that ever. Next slide. That's what a 50 millimeter lens looks like. Next slide. How will 25 residential parking spaces work out for 157 units? I don't think this is well thought out. Next slide. I have a whole bunch of open questions here. Next slide. Well, I already mentioned the former creek. Next slide. And in
30 seconds.
Yeah. In summary, I'm trying to figure out why, I can stop speaking and there would be no questions and all of my slides could be ignored. But I really want to know what part of the minimum 80-foot building separation that planners want to understand, or the minimum 30-foot rear yard setback that isn't understood, or the maximum 6,500 square feet, because there's a systemic problem in planning and the basic policy objectives are not being met. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. And I don't see any questions for you this evening. Oh, Councillor Hardwick, questions for Mr. Boas, up to 5 minutes. Please go ahead.
I'm sorry, if I could have that the last slide that we ended on there. There was a question to staff implicit in it, and again, it was I think it was the last or almost at the very end of the slides. If there's a way to right. Yeah, and I've heard all of that's one. If staff believe that the application has merit, but it does not follow a policy, can they just state it and clearly for the record? Mr. Bohos, if that is the case, why would you like to have it stated clearly for the record?
Well, in my opinion, I've done the analysis. I have a professional background, and I think it's much clearer to say not try to say that this meets the Grandview Woodland Plan when it clearly doesn't. When you drill down into the policy, and then council and the public could just judge the rezoning on its merit rather than whether it meets the plan or not.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. And that's it for questions. Thanks for coming in this evening, as always. And we're going to our next speaker, who is Marika Albert, who I believe is phoning in. Ms. Albert on the line?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Marika Albert, and I'm calling today from the unceded traditional territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh Nations to express support for the rezoning application put forward by Brightside Community Homes Foundation at 1425 and 1451 East 12th Avenue. I am here in my role as Director of Policy for the BC Nonprofit Housing Association, speaking on behalf of our members from the nonprofit sector to show support for Brightside, with whom we work with on a number of important housing issues. As an association, we represent nearly 500 nonprofits operating affordable housing across the province and are closely collaborating with many partners in the community housing sector who share our mission to offer safe, secure, and affordable homes for everyone. Today, I'm not only speaking on behalf of our members, but I am also here as a neighbor in Grandview Woodland, as my partner and I rent only a few blocks away, and our offices for our organization are also located at Commercial Drive and First Avenue. As you're well aware, the city's own housing strategy targets 72,000 new homes for the next 10 years, including 12,000 social, supportive, and nonprofit or co-op units, and 20,000 purpose-built rental units. Despite the pandemic-induced economic slowdown, we have no doubt that the housing crisis in Vancouver is not slowing down. To address it, Vancouver must continue building more social or affordable housing for a wide diversity of residents. This project would create over 100 new affordable rental homes for those who need them most, particularly seniors and people with disabilities. 2016 census data tell us that 1 in 5 senior-led renter households in the city of Vancouver spend half of their income on housing and utility costs. If an unexpected expense comes up, these seniors might have to choose between paying their rent or buying food, a choice no senior, or anyone for that matter, should have to make. In the face of our housing crisis and a looming recession, over 100 units of new housing are a significant addition for every one of the people who will find a home there. These units and your support for them will continue to be crucial in the health and well-being of Vancouver residents. The pandemic has shown the life-changing value of having your own place to call home. We all know that our region will continue to grow in the coming years and decades. To accommodate this continued growth, we need a robust and affordable housing system that includes continued adequate supply. Neither our nor any other neighborhood in the city should be an exception to that principle. While building rental is hard on its own, making rental units affordable is even harder to achieve. In housing development, your leadership and support can make or break projects. I personally live in a new rental project that only exists due to the city's leadership, as it was created under the city's Rental 100 program, which made it economically viable. Support from the city is particularly important in achieving deeper levels of affordability through policies like DCL waivers, the SHORT program, and increased density through rezoning to make rents affordable. As an association, we are quite excited to see a project come through under the city's social housing or rental housing program. It also takes partners like Brightside who put people before profits. The Society has been providing affordable rental housing in Vancouver for over 65 years and is one of the largest, longest-standing housing societies in the city. They have a proven track record of ensuring that their homes are as affordable as possible through careful planning and collaboration with all levels of government. Brightside has also particularly stayed true to its mission by supporting residents during the temporary relocation period, often exceeding the minimum requirements set out by the city. The new buildings are also designed to better enable residents to age in place with improved accessibility features. And we especially support Brightside's approach to welcoming all current residents back to the new development at the same rent calculation once the development is complete. We hope that your decision tonight will continue your leadership in responding to our housing affordability crisis and will result in the development of affordable rental units that the private market alone simply won't provide. As a neighbor in Grandview Woodland, I have the privilege to use many of its great amenities, and I'm excited that there will be more affordable and senior-friendly housing in our neighborhood. And I am happy to add the name of BC Nonprofit Housing Association to the list of supporters for this project. As an association, speaking on behalf of the nonprofit sector and a neighboring business on Commercial Drive, we ask that the City of Vancouver approve the rezoning application and build more homes and not barriers to affordable housing. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you very much. And I don't see any questions for you. I just want to thank you so much for coming in this evening to speak.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks very much. We're going to move on to Graham Wood. Councillors, if you'll notice on the email that's sent around from the clerks, clerks have already pre-identified whether folks are residents of Vancouver. So I just wanted to draw that to your attention, and I won't be asking all the time if that's already indicated for you, because it does cut down some time. So I'll note that. Is Mr. Wood on the line?
Hi. Good evening, Mayor and Council. How are you tonight?
Fine, thanks. I just noticed we have yet to confirm whether or not you're a resident of Vancouver. So if you could do that before you start your 5 minutes, that would be great.
Absolutely. My name is Graham Wood, Director of Real Estate of the Bloom Group. We operate in Vancouver as a individual person. I am not a resident of Vancouver, but I work in an organization that is only in the city of Vancouver. The Bloom Group has been around for 50 years and working within the city of Vancouver, downtown East Side, and elsewhere, working with vulnerable populations like those that Brightside works with. Brightside is a great community partner serving many of the same populations as us. I'm here tonight to support the proposal for 1425 and 1451 East 12th Ave, as it helps to deliver on one of the key goals towards housing Vancouver strategies, which is most relevant to Bloom Group and probably Brightside as well, which is a significant creation of social housing. I understand this proposal includes 157 social housing units, which will result in tripling the number of social housing units on site, including a replacement of the existing units. Seeing that Vancouver is one of the most expensive cities to live in, more and more residents within the city are struggling to find adequate housing. This is especially true for our vulnerable senior populations for whom the Bloom Group shares many of the same goals as Brightside. While passive house elements of this proposal are not necessarily our focus at Bloom, it is exciting to see that a significant supply of social housing will be provided in a building constructed to such a high standard for energy efficiency and reduction of ongoing operating costs. This allows for more sustainability within the project itself. I understand that passive house buildings have exceptionally high indoor air quality, so it's great to see that this quality of space can be delivered in the social housing development, while operating costs can be controlled to a higher degree while delivering that comfort in particular for seniors. Between the passive house elements and modest increase of the density permitted under the Grandview Plan, together with the public realm treatments, this development looks to be an economically efficient model for the delivery of not only more social housing, but social housing that reflects the needs of the community and the long-term sustainability of the project itself. In relation to parking, the Bloom Group operates 221 units primarily for seniors in the West End at substantially below market rates. And of these 221 units, we have approximately 20 units of parking on site, and that works quite well given our population. We promote programming within these units where we're able to meet the residents' needs, and I don't believe that the Brightside proposal will have any substantial issues with our parking ratio at this development. I think this is a great proposal and one that really exemplifies what is possible when community land is allowed to be developed by community hands such as Brightside. I encourage Mayor and Council to support this proposal as it will deliver an important contribution of the city's social housing supply and continued growth of groups like Brightside, which are being able to innovate and ensure their future economic independence while delivering on their commitment to the community. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for your time, and I don't see any questions for you. Thank you very much for coming in today. I'm going to move on now to, let's see here. We've got Roderick Bird by phone.
Good evening.
Bird? Hi
Yes.
there.
You can hear me?
Please go ahead. Yes, I can. Up to 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening to everyone there. I'm a past resident of 1425 East 12th Avenue. I moved in there I was 69 at the time. I'm now 76. And I'm one of the people that they've relocated, and I have a wonderful apartment, but also am looking forward to going back to that area, which I loved, into a new building. The buildings that exist there now, of course, they're really old, and upkeep, I'm sure, is very expensive. Just in a quick note, in my travels, I ride a bicycle. In my travels around the neighborhood, like the feedback I got from residents that I got to know was really positive. And having, like some idea of how difficult it is for seniors to find affordable housing. It's one of the big things, and our senior population keeps growing. Amazing idea, that one. The idea that this new buildings would be energy efficient is pleasing, and I applaud that. And one of the things that sticks out in my mind, I'm for this project, obviously. One of the things that sticks out in my mind was that when I got to move into 1425, 7+ years ago, the comments I got from family and friends was that I was really lucky. And those comments have stuck with me ever since. I don't think it should be a matter of luck that you find affordable housing when you're a senior on low income. I'd also like to commend Brightside for the way they handled this my transition out of 1425 into my new place. Rents here is affordable, of course, and I look forward to going back. And it's just, I'm for the project, and thank you for your time.
Thank you for your time, sir. We have no questions for you, but really appreciate you phoning in this evening.
My pleasure.
Great, thanks a lot. I'm going to move on to John Wooden. Mr. Wooden, up to 5 minutes whenever you are ready.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Please go ahead.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is John Wooden. I'm a private citizen, and like the previous caller, I too am a former resident of 1451, and I support this rezoning. I lived at 1451 for about 8 years until Brightside relocated me to another of their properties in East Van earlier this year. I have the right of first refusal, but I probably won't exercise that. I'm happy where I am. So, you can factor in that into my comments supporting the project. As you've heard, Brightside provides assistance to people in the form of non-market rents, and in my opinion, that helps a great many people. My fellow neighbors were seniors or older single people and many had mobility or health issues, and all of them that I talked to appreciated being able to affordably live in that area. The location that you're considering is excellent for such people, as it's close in proximity to grocery, drugstore, medical services, both clinics and life labs, and of course SkyTrain and transit, which was important as many of the residents didn't own their own vehicles. I notice online there's some concern about the ratio of parking stalls to units. For that building at 1451, we had 6 stalls for 36 units, so 1 to 6. And I note that this plan has a ratio of 1 to 4.75, so I'll just point that out. That said, the 1451 has a number of current issues. As you've heard, it's 50 years old, and it's not completely wheelchair friendly, no elevator. Many times I've seen residents struggling with the stairs to get to their suites on the upper floors. The building has ongoing pest issues, bed bugs and cockroaches, and as it's an older building, it's not built to current construction standards, so it's impossible to seal your apartment against pests moving from suite to suite. So once they get into one, they're in all of them. And the building also floods every fall or winter, at least for the years I was there, down in the basement where the lockers are stored. Often 8 inches of storm water would back up and ruin the lockers. And this is despite Brightside having installed new drainage tile around the whole building. So I'd just like to comment on affordable rents in the area. I did a search on Google, and as you know, it's extremely expensive to rent in Vancouver. Of the 50 searches that I did in that surrounding area, for a 1-bedroom apartment, there was one. There's always the elusive one at $1,000, but then there were 42 between $1,300 and $3,200. That's for a 1-bedroom apartment rental. For basement suites, same thing, 1 at $850, and then 3 at between $1,350 and $1,750. And for studio, again, 1 at $900, and then 2 that came in at $1,425 and $1,600. So those are very expensive rents for single older people to pay. And most of my fellow residents had jobs. We work. It's just difficult to afford full market rent. And many people in the older age bracket find themselves in challenging circumstances due to divorce, which is my case, or death of a spouse or some other life-altering event. And, we're not looking for a handout. We want to be self-sufficient. We just need a little help facing the financial stress of Vancouver's rental market. And I can't say enough about Brightside. With their non-market rents, they go a long way in relieving that stress. I would say we need more of these kinds of developments in East Vancouver. And as far as I know, there's always been a long waiting list to get into a Brightside unit. So I hope you will keep these people in mind as you make your decision, and I strongly urge you to consider approving the rezoning and allowing the project to proceed. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Thank you very much. I don't see any questions for you from council, so I'm going to move on to the next speaker, who is Ken Wolf.
Hello, my name is Ken Wolf. You can hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you very much for calling in. Go right ahead, up to 5 minutes.
Okay, thank you. As I said, my name is Ken Wolf. I'm a resident of Vancouver and with Brightside Community Homes. I'm in support of the rezoning. I'm a resident with the Brightside Community Homes and recently relocated from 1425 East 12th Avenue. I want to speak in support of the rezoning and redevelopment of 1425 and 1451 East 12th Avenue because of the professional and very helpful way they provide safe and affordable housing with a focus on community living. It's reassuring to know that there is support and community when needed, even if some of the benefits are not used or needed at this time. Their attention to detail with their buildings and tenants provides the safe environment we all need to be productive members of a community and society. I hope their progress in redeveloping their properties of 1425 and 1451 East 12th Avenue will be looked on favorably so that they may continue to provide the safe and affordable housing for others that need it. Thank you. that was about.
Thanks very much.
Okay.
No, go ahead. Keep continuing. Lots of time.
Well, that's I don't know what else to say, really. I mean, it's a case of I can't say enough good things about them, but I don't really have much more to say. They have been great.
Oh, that's okay.
With all of the tenants and and encouraging the community lifestyle within their buildings, so that people are helping people and bringing groceries in and taking garbage out and just chat for some of the elderly and people who don't have the mobility that they used to have. And they've done so much good, and so much is needed for so many that I really hope they're able to provide more units and help more people.
Thank you very much for your comments. I don't see any questions from council for you, so just want to thank you very much for coming in tonight. And I'm going to move to the next speaker, Anita Olson.
Hi, can you hear me?
I absolutely can. You have up to 5 minutes. Hi, you have up to 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, I'm a resident of Vancouver, and I've been living in this neighborhood for the past 20 years of the development. Our heritage home is located on the northeast corner of the proposed development and is zoned single-family duplex, as are most of the homes on our block on Woodland Drive. We've raised our kids here and have a strong connection to the community. My partner designed and built the book library that is in the Cedar Cottage Park around the corner. He's a graduate of UBC School of Architecture and has taken the Passive House certification. We have no objection to social housing, and we've lived harmoniously with these neighbors for 20 years. But my concerns with the project are the building height, the lack of setbacks from the neighboring zone single-family homes, the building design with the courtyard located in the front of the building on 12th Avenue, the lack of parking and tree retention, particularly the tree at the northeast corner of the proposed development. Although the diagrams and representations from Brightside show that this tree will be retained, I've sent in some photos. It's not clear how this is actually possible because the tree canopy is at least 50 feet in diameter, and the trunk is located 20 feet from the back lane. And as you heard, the building will only have a 22-foot rear setback. So I don't think the tree size or location is accurately shown on the plans. I've asked for confirmation about the tree measurements and location in relation to the building, but have not received that to date. I got an email last night about the possibility of cutting back part of the tree and underpinning the tree roots. However, that doesn't really answer the questions of whether it's a realistic possibility that the tree can be saved. I just wanted to give you some background on our experience about this process to date and why I said in my comments to council that the community engagement has been poor. We attended both open houses for the project. At the first one, the design drawings are displayed on the walls. Luckily, my partner understood the drawings and could explain them to me. He's an architect. One of our immediate concerns was the height of the building with no gradual setbacks from the neighboring single-family homes. We've already heard about the zoning and the shadows that will be cast on all of us. We brought this up because we thought this was a community engagement session, and we were told by a Brightside's representative, "You're lucky this is not a 10-story building. The regulations don't apply to us. We can build anything we want." So I'm not sure what the point of having that community engagement was at all. They don't care about the impact of the design. In fact, the design can be approved upon, and we tried, and you'll see with my submissions to council, we even gave them ideas that are workable. Anyway, we had a meeting with them. But even worse than that was the second open house that we arrived to see the scale model of the project. However, it was apparent that the actual model was not to scale at all. So in fact, the single-family homes were massive in size and were the same height as the proposed 6-story building. So I don't know how many community members looked at this model and were misled as to the size and scale of the development, and so didn't say anything. But we were able to speak to the architect during this open house. We asked him about the scale model. He said it was a mistake by the model maker, and he was upset about it. However, he did nothing during the open house to attempt to notify people about this or to rectify it, or neither did the city. And I just kind of baffling. But one thing that was apparent from the core model was that there was no way the tree at the northeast corner of the building would fit in the new design, which they keep showing in all of their designs. The model showed a small tree stuck onto the corner of the building, and the real tree is massive with at least a 50-foot canopy. The tree is not columnar as the one depicted, but it fans out in a gigantic circle. And we pointed that out to the architect in the city and did not get much of a response. And we also asked the architect why he located the courtyard in the front of the building on busy, loud 12th Avenue as opposed to the building behind the building where it is currently and where it's quiet. And this would be more usable by the residents. It would also provide a nice buffer between us and the tower. And the architect said that this was done primarily because they wanted to save the tree facing 12th Avenue. And they also had space restrictions caused by the city's requirement for a right-of-way. So as we weren't convinced anyone was paying attention to this, we decided to submit our written comment to the city. And during the call, we were given a different reason as to why the courtyard was on 12th Avenue. Now we were told that it was set back to shield the residents in the units facing 12 from the traffic noise. I told the city I was pretty sure that was not the case because that's not what the architect told us that he had in mind when he designed it. Also, I wondered why in the Grandview Woodland plan, all buildings set on busy streets are parallel to the road with no setback or U-shaped courtyards. And I Googled and looked at the city's own noise guidelines and noise control manual.
I'm going to thank you for your. I'm going to thank you for your time. Yep, and I'm sorry, you're. Well, no, you're well over your 5 minutes, and I just want to. It's nothing to do with the content of your presentation. It's to do with the 5-minute allocation for each speaker. Thanks very much. You do have a question though from Councillor Wiebe. Councillor Wiebe, please go ahead.
Yeah, you said you gave a couple specific suggestions. You named a couple. Is there any other ones that you gave?
Councillor Wiebe, you're a bit faint. If you could speak a little more into your microphone, that would be great.
Yeah, I sent. My husband, he's a firefighter, and he's late because he had to go rescue someone. He's working late, but he's also an architect, and he submitted a diagram, and I sent a copy into council. So it should be under my name. There's 3 photos of a tree, and he did a diagram of how you could flip the building and have the courtyard where it currently is to provide like a buffer between the single-family homes and the tower, and you would have a straight building. You'd have a straight line facing 12, so you wouldn't have the echoing caused by that U-shaped courtyard, which I don't think anyone thought about when they designed it because they just wanted to save the tree in the front. That was so yeah, it's possible to do, and we sent that to the city.
Okay, thanks so much for coming in and speaking.
Thank you. There's no more questions for you. Really appreciate you coming in this evening. I'm going to move on to the next speaker now. We have Kevin Butler, speaker number 8. Kevin Butler. Mr. Butler, are you available?
That's my husband who's.
Oh, I'm sorry, and so he's not available. Okay, thanks very much. Okay, thanks. I do a call at the end if he does make it back. There may be still opportunity for him to speak, so I will call that out, and you'll be able to hear it when it's done. I'm going to move on to Megan O'Leary.
Hello?
Hi,
Hello.
Ms. O'Leary.
Oh, hi. Yeah.
Hi there. Sorry, this is Ms. O'Leary?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Please go ahead. I can. Up to 5 minutes whenever you're ready.
Okay. I just wanted to say, my God, as a senior with lower income, Brightside has been my savior. They are absolutely fantastic. You know, they take care of things when they need to be taken care of. You know, the help with the moving, the fact that I requested a certain building in an area that I want to live my days out in, they got me in there. They're just amazing. The staff is warm and friendly and helpful. I just consider myself so lucky, and I kind of just lucked into here because I answered an ad in the Craigslist and didn't know it was social housing, but I got in here at 1425, and so wow, that was wonderful. And my only wish is that all the other seniors and disabled people in need could be as lucky as I am. So the importance of, with Vancouver becoming a hard to live in city because of rents, many people suffer from this. Families are moving away. It's changing the whole demeanor of the city. I just hope that you, and I'm sure you will, keep going on this affordable housing issue, because it's the most important, I think. I don't want to live in any other place in the world, and I don't want to live in any other place than the West End, which is where I got in. So, very fortunate. And, I think that's it. Hello?
That's great. Yes, thank you very much for your comments tonight. I don't see any other questions from council for you, so I'll just thank you so much for your participation this evening, and I'm going to move on to the next speaker, who is...
Okay. May I say one thing?
Yes, you do have a bit of time.
I voted for you, and I'm very happy with you. That's all I got to say.
Well, that's very nice of you. Thanks so much. Okay, I'm blushing a little bit.
Okay.
Thanks very much. Thanks.
All right.
I'll go. Thank you. We're moving on to Hirbad Mashfegi. Do we have Hirbad Mashfegi?
So I think it's number 10. So
we have speaker number 10, Hirbad Mashfegi. Moderator, do we have?
Mayor Stewart, pardon the interruption, it's the clerk here. I was hearing someone faintly, so if you could give us a moment, we will see if we're able to retrieve that call.
Okay.
Mayor Stewart, it is the clerk again. We were checking, and it appears the call was dropped.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks. I'm going to start my calls then for other speakers, and then perhaps they might come back on the line. So I'm going to now call and see if there are any extra speakers that would like to speak to this item. It'll be my first call. The number is 1-855-353-9183, followed by participant code 76816 hashtag. That's to get on the list. And I'll just check with the clerk or moderator. Is there anybody on the line to speak?
Mayor Stewart, it's the clerk here, and David Eddy is on the line.
Great. Okay. Mr. Eddy, you have up to 5 minutes. Thank you so much for calling in. Are you a resident of Vancouver?
I'm the CEO of Vancouver Native Housing Society.
I know who you are. I just had to ask.
All right. Well,
so please go ahead.
Before I start, I want to acknowledge that we're gathered together on the traditional territory of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh, and appreciate that fact very much. We're a nonprofit urban Indigenous affordable housing provider with 19 properties in Vancouver, encompassing over 850 housing units, 10 of them in the Grandview Woodland neighborhood. So thank you, Mayor and Council, for hearing me tonight. On behalf of VNHS, I'm pleased to speak in support of the rezoning of 1425 and 1451 East 12th Avenue, brought forward by Brightside Community Homes Foundation. As a nonprofit housing provider colleague of Brightside, we support their goal of creating more safe and secure affordable rental housing for seniors to age in place in healthy and vibrant neighborhoods. Also, I would like to report that Brightside, as a nonprofit affordable housing provider, is very well regarded in the sector for the caring and professional manner in which they do their work and care for their residents. Affordable housing for seniors continues to be a significant need in Vancouver, including in neighborhoods such as Grandview Woodlands. We know that as 10 of our 19 properties are in the Grandview Woodland community. This proposal is strategically in line with the Grandview Woodland Community Plan, which seeks to provide opportunities for increased housing options for seniors with fixed and or limited incomes to remain in the community. Brightside's project would create 100 new affordable and accessible homes for those who need them most, particularly seniors and people with disabilities. Recent reports show nearly 1 in 5 seniors are living in unaffordable housing in British Columbia, emphasizing how this is a well-considered and timely proposal that can make a significant difference. With these new buildings, Brightside will be able to serve more seniors in buildings that are designed with today's accessibility standards top of mind. Brightside goes beyond creating affordable homes by bringing a real focus on community development that fosters strong social connections and resilience among its residents. This is particularly important for seniors who often face higher rates of social isolation, leading to other wellness challenges. Their proposal prioritizes indoor and outdoor community space where seniors can build a real sense of community. With their commitment to welcoming all current residents back to the new buildings at their current rent calculations once the development is complete, Brightside demonstrates again how they value their residents and communities. Brightside's planning for this property also includes passive house certification standards for a sustainable building with a lower carbon footprint, which means they're doing their part in helping build a cleaner future for us all. We look forward to continuing to work together with Brightside toward our shared goals. Vancouver desperately needs more nonprofit housing so all seniors of all income levels can have a safe, secure, and affordable home in a vibrant community. We hope you, Mayor and Council, agree and will support this important proposal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Eddy. We also did receive the letter from the organization that was circulated to Council, so thank you very much for calling in this evening. I don't see any questions from Council for you, so I just wanted to thank you so much for your participation.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'm going to call a second time for speakers. The number is 188. Sorry, I'm going to put my glasses on here. 1-855-353-9183, followed by participant code 76816 hashtag. Moderator, are there any other speakers on the line?
There are no new speakers on the line at the moment.
Okay, thanks so much. I'm going to call one last time. 1-855-353-9183, code 76816 hashtag to get on the list. And of course, the number is on the live stream if you missed that. What I'm going to do now, speakers, Council, that I've called 3 times, and I'm going to take a 5-minute recess just to make sure that everybody's had a chance to participate. So we're at 8:42. I will bring us back at 8:47. Thanks very much, Council. We'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, Council, we're at 8:46. I'm going to ask the clerks, is there anybody else, or the moderator, is there anybody else on the line to speak to this item?
There are no new speakers that have joined to speak to this item.
Great. Thank you very much, Council. So seeing there are no additional speakers, the speakers list is now closed. And I'm just going to ask whether the applicant has any closing comments.
No, we don't have any closing comments. We thank you for your time, and you guys have all had a long day, so thank you.
Thanks very much. And again, Council, we're closing the receipt of public comments and hearing on these closing comments and asking questions to staff. So you have an opportunity to ask questions to staff if you like, but first I'll ask staff if they have any closing comments. Staff, any closing comments?
No closing comments. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Council, do you have any questions to staff? If so, just if you can put yourself on the queue. I don't see anybody on the queue, so we're going to move to decision this application. Do we have a mover?
So moved, Councillor Carr.
And a seconder?
Kirby-Yung.
Thanks very much. So I'm going to move over to the main queue. If anybody has Councillor Wiebe, I've got you on the queue.
Yeah, I submitted an amendment.
Okay.
And this is just reflecting the important heritage of this area and the creek that's below it, and just giving an opportunity in the next phase of the development process to look at opportunities to celebrate that historical creek and create a connection to other areas, including their property to the north and the park, Cedar Creek. So I've sent it in, and I've worked with staff to ensure it meets the guidelines of a public hearing.
Great, and I have checked with the clerks and law about this, and this amendment is in order. So I would need a seconder for this to move forward.
Second, Councillor Kirby-Yung.
Okay, I'm going to put us on to the amendment queue, and Councillor Wiebe, you have. I'm actually going to give you. If you'd like, would you like to say anything else to this?
No, I just want to thank Stephen Bogus. He was one of the speakers today that sent in a report that highlighted the creek that goes right below this. And this is an area that I have walked multiple times with the local stream keepers, and recognizing that there is a natural gap that was created by the right-of-way. And I think it's a great opportunity for the seniors in this residence and local neighbors to be able to connect to different spots of this neighborhood. So really appreciate the speaker bringing forward that historical map, and our staff for working to ensure that we can make this happen.
Thanks very much. Councillor Kirby-Yung, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, I'm pleased to speak in support of this amendment. I'm glad that Councillor Wiebe brought it forward. I think that it was great to see some of the existing signage and recognition that was there on the site, and we certainly don't want to lose that and carry those aspects through and when we have new development. And so I appreciate the additional specificity and intent from Councillor Wiebe to reflect from Council if this amendment passes that that's something that Council also feels is important. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's it for questions. So I'll call a vote on this amendment, Council. Just on your X panel. Clerks I'm just checking clerks that everybody's had a chance to vote. That came up pretty fast. So what was the voting panel reset? Clerks. Just checking, clerks, was the voting panel reset for this vote?
Mayor Stewart, this is the clerk. Yes, indeed, it was reset, and we have a new sequence number.
Okay, thanks very much. That was just so fast. So thanks, Council. That has passed unanimously, and we're back to the main queue. Councillor Wiebe, anything else on this one? Councillor Wiebe?
Yeah, I do have concerns I heard from the neighbors on protecting the tree to the northeast corner and reflecting that large trees on this site are really kind of key to the character. But I do really appreciate the work by the proponent to deliver the seniors housing, and so I'm hoping in further working through the process there would be an ability to ensure that we can protect these large, beautiful trees and ensure that this building connects to the neighborhood. But really appreciate and great to see this many seniors housing, and I think there's some great components to the design.
Thank you very much. Councillor Kirby-Yung, up to 5 minutes.
Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy to support this project. I think it's really heartwarming to hear how well regarded a nonprofit operator is, and certainly we've heard that from a number of people tonight on Brightside Homes, but I've heard that as well outside of the hearing, that they're a strong operator, and I think it really speaks to what I think council needs to be doing more of, which is enabling the nonprofit sector who really know their business well in terms of delivering social and nonprofit housing, and have the city sort of play our role in enabling, and do that through zoning and supporting and other policies, and I think this is a great example of that. It's also great to see the additional capacity going from the 2 buildings that are aging, and we heard that certainly. I think Mr. Bird spoke to that earlier. One of the residents that had been relocated, going from aging buildings that, quite frankly, sound like they could be improved in terms of the experience for people that are in their later years, and significantly increasing the numbers of units, going from, I think it was 57 up to now 100 and find the number here in front of me, 157 homes now. Also very appreciate the level of affordability with the safer units at 36%, and I, knowing Brightside's track record, I'm very hopeful that they will strive to deliver the deepest level of affordability that they can in the remaining units. I did note the speaker that had expressed a comment about the transition onto the single-family homes at the back, and I did note in this report that it said there was an additional setback of 22 feet on the rear and then on the side lane in response to some of the feedback, and so I wanted to note that. So recognizing that I think there had been an attempt made in recognition of those comments that came in. But what I want to wrap up and say is that I don't think there's housing that we can provide that's more important in the city. I talked a lot about seniors and just before coming on council, and the growing population that we have, and I think it's I don't have the year number right in front of me, but our seniors population is slated to go up significantly within about 20 years by 79%. And typically means are limited at that point, and people deserve that have lived their lives and worked hard and built our city, deserve to have some great housing. And when Mr. Bird said that his family commented that he was really lucky to have gotten into it, into the Brightside in his unit, and he moved in a number of years ago, and said, but people shouldn't have to be lucky when they're at that point in their life. I think he said it far better than any of us could. And I think that's something to really take away and to aspire to. So I hope that we can enable many more projects like this. I thank Brightside very much for bringing it forward. And the speakers tonight that came and spoke to how important this is in having a place that they can afford for quality of life, having a community, and knowing the other residents, and having an operator that is responsive to their needs and supporting them. So very, very happy to see a project supporting seniors tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Boyle.
Thanks, and I will echo much of that. Delighted to be able to support this increase in affordable non-market seniors housing in the city, and really appreciate what we heard from Brightside, as well as from some of their community members and tenants about the care that's gone into thoughtfully relocating people, welcoming them back. It feels like the type of tenant care that would be great to see, is great to see happening in conversation across the nonprofit housing sector, and would be great to see in some way thought about in terms of the redevelopment of existing rental housing in other places too. I'd love to be able to hear lessons from how that goes in terms of what we could be doing more broadly. But as I said, very happy to support this project. I would have been happy to support, to see it be a couple stories higher and be able to include even more units, considering its proximity to public transit and good parks. But but supporting it as is this evening. Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Carr?
Yes, thanks so much, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to move this amendment, or this motion forward, and really do want to thank, first of all the speakers that came. I think that was a very efficiently handled process of listening to the speakers. Everybody was there, and I really appreciated that process tonight. And to obviously thank staff for their work on this, and especially the applicant. It's very key to me that we have a very good provider of affordable housing for seniors in the city. And as Councillor Kirby-Yung noted, there is an aging population here. So I think the role is only going to increase in its importance over time. I really very much appreciate the relocation plans that have been offered. We heard people speak to that tonight. We've also had letters, emails sent to us affirming that as well. And for seniors, I think especially, relocation can be extremely difficult. So to hear people say they feel very well supported by it and their needs have been met, I think is, for me, extremely important. I also want to just note that the seeking of certification around passive house standard to me is very important, and I really liked the explanation that not only is that a good thing for our environment in the face of dramatically increasing climate change, but the reasons given around the increased livability and comfort for people that live within the buildings, and the decreased operating costs, so that there are some very practical reasons to pursue it, and appreciate those comments being on public record. So, and thank you, Councillor Wiebe, also for bringing in your amendment around the natural water systems and really paying attention to the natural environment and the setting within which this development sits. So, again, thanks to all.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson.
Yes, I'm going to surprise everybody and vote for something now. But the thing is that, well, passive is really good, but this project shows how much affordability we can get when the land is owned and there is no profit. And I think it's a model that we need to keep pushing on and trying to get more and more non-profit developments on land that isn't being speculated on. And I hope we can do that. And yeah, let's go with this.
Thank you, Councillor Swanson. That's it for speakers on this item. I'd just like to say this is a great project. I want to thank the applicant for bringing this forward. I'd like to thank staff for their hard work on this, for council with their diligence through the public hearing, as well as all the speakers who came in and participated. So thanks very much, council. We're going to move to a vote on this one. And that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Clerks, if you could put that up on screen. That would be great. I think that does it for today, Council. Clerks, I think we're adjourning here, so I'll ask, thanks. I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Councillor Hardwick. And we have a seconder.
Seconded by Boyle.
Thank you. All in favor say yay.
Yay. Yay.
Opposed say nay. And we're done. Thanks very much, Council. We will see you tomorrow.
Yes, thanks, everyone.
Bye.